Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome to the huddle. Paul's not here to do his intro again, and it messes everyone up every single time. Thanks for joining us today. We got me, Jose, and some more family members today. We got baby sister, everyone knows Crystal Sims, and most of you might not know this is Flo. His name's Florencio, but we call him Flo because no one can remember Florencio or even say it because they can't roll their R's.
That's legit.
So, Crystal, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself? Tell people about you.
My name is Crystal Sims. I work at Preferred Flooring in Grand Rapids, Michigan. A little bit about me. Let's see. I have three boys. I love self growth and learning a lot about myself, and I'm excited to be here.
Word.
You might want to get a little bit closer.
So my name is Florencio
You don't have to get
Gilarte.
that loud.
That loud. And I work at Preferred Flooring too. Been working since I was like 14 years old, just helping out in the summer when I could, because that's what we were supposed to do. So I learned the trade back then, been getting back into it and finding a little bit of passion in it. But I'd say I'm a man who's always extroverted. I like talking to people, like having conversations. I'm really big on music. I'm writing an album this year. Hopefully, I make it out on that. Yeah, that's a little bit about me. I got a son and wife at home. Yep,
Well, she's not a wife yet.
girlfriend.
That's my girlfriend.
So today we're going to be talking about the psychological impact of installer burnout. I think we've all kind of been there and been through it right at some point in our careers, and what can we do to kind of mitigate that? I mean, um, what happened the first time you got burned out? And I can kind of lean on you on this one because um, so this is not Flo's first time actually working with us, and he was in the field before. He was in the office, and the last time he was here, he actually just came up to me and he was like, "I'm just not feeling it." And you actually moved to Iowa shortly after you left here. So
Hmm.
how were you feeling when you were kind of going through that?
um, I guess I had my mind on everything that I wasn't, everything that I told myself that I was going to do in life and I wasn't doing. And it felt like I always had flooring to fall back onto, flooring this, flooring that. Flooring's going to help you do this, flooring's going to help you do that. In a sense, I just had to get away. I had to remove myself from the situation because I was focused on things that I thought was my future, focused on things that I thought was going to help me get the life that I desired. But at the end of the day, when I moved back from Iowa, it was just like, that wasn't working out, but go back to flooring.
Hey, what's up, Justin? How's it going?
I just think about it. Burnout happens like once a month for me, just because it is a trade that I've had to learn to love, had to find the things that made me want to keep going, I guess. And honestly, I just smoke a lot of marijuana to drown out the thoughts so I can keep coming to work the next day.
I think that's called addiction.
uh,
Word.
word.
And we've talked about this in other episodes too about what people do, and I mean, marijuana is one of those things, right? But there's definitely worse things that you could be doing, and our trade is riddled with people that are on prescription pills or get addicted to I mean, heroin, other things that could be a lot worse and even more addictive, and take you on a path that is could be even worse. So I mean,
Detrimental.
it could be worse, and it's all in what else could you do in order to mitigate that burnout? Baby sister, what about you? What about the first time that you felt burnt out? What did that feel like?
Um, well, first, I want to say that the word mitigate, I don't know. I think that it's inevitable to have burnout at some point because we're continuously learning and evolving. So I think the best thing for us is to prepare for things such as burnout. Um, for me, I think a lot of it for me was started when I was put in the spotlight and I felt, I guess, unworthy of the position that I was in. I mean, I know that I'm fortunate to have a family to support me and get me to overcome some of my fears to put me in those positions that help me overcome my fears. But to me, it felt a lot like I wasn't, what did they call that?
You were
Imposter
stuck on
syndrome.
you were
No,
stuck
like,
on autopilot.
yeah, like, but it was like imposter syndrome. Like, I couldn't understand the hype, eh, but at the same time, uh, I was in a position where I didn't, it was almost like my values didn't align with what position I was in. So for me, the burnout happened when the things that I was saying, like saying, yes, I'm a leader. Yes, I'm doing this. Yes, I'm good at my job, but I didn't feel those things deep inside. And so the burnout came when I wasn't, my outer reality was not aligned with my inner reality. And I was kind of resistant to or oblivious to that fact. And I had to really, hey, Paul.
Hi,
and I
I'm Paul.
and I really had to go through the experience though, right? Like I had to mess everything up at work and I had to fight myself mentally and I had like you really have to go through those steps to know like okay, I'm I'm really doing this to myself. I feel like burnout we do to ourselves. Well, me personally, from my experience. Um, and I think that like Flo said, for some people it happens once a month. For some people it happens for a year consecutively. It all depends on the person. Uh, for me, I picked up cookie decorating, so maybe better than marijuana, but probably not because I also went through a phase where I kind of shut everyone out completely and just focused on making cookies and growing. Um,
I well, I think it all depends on what you want to do, right? So it's like they talk about like addiction transfer, and so
yep,
we, myself, you, and Jose have all gone through weight loss surgery, right? So we've all kind of gone through. We were all addicted to food at some point.
still am.
I was addicted
Still
to
am,
being big
yeah,
sexy. That's what I
big
was
sexy.
addicted to.
So it's all about what can you do to take something from over here and kind of transfer that to somewhere else. And sometimes it is shutting other people out because you have to be alone in order to figure yourself out sometimes, I think.
hmm I was
What's up,
gonna
Paul?
say,
Mic
What's
check, mic
up?
check. There you
Mic
go.
check, mic check.
We didn't even attempt to do the intro today, Paul, because no one can do it as good as you.
He did attempt. He did attempt for about three
Well,
seconds.
I will just have to watch that back. I'm sure you
Don't do it.
knocked it out of the park.
nah, bro. I saw a bug on the ground. It was crawling by my feet, and right when he was about to start, I looked at it. I said, "There's a bug," and then he started.
So we're just talking about the first time you felt burnt out and how we've all been there. Do you have any the story about the first time you felt burnt out at all?
You know, I was sitting here listening to Crystal kind of um, chat and talk about the time frames that it can be. Some people it's once a month, some people it's once a year. I feel like I still hit that just in a different way. And it's most of the time it's in some interval that I push myself really hard, and then I'll find myself do like get into this funk. Um, and I've got a business coach, therapist, business therapist, maybe I should call her, because more than just a coach. But her name's Olga, and I tap straight into back with her every single time that I get into that. Like, it's odd, guys, because for most of us, we perform, we work hard, we want to do the right things, and then you just find yourself in this position where you feel worthless. And I can't even describe where it comes from, or why
Uh,
it's there. But when it comes on, um, instead of this is me personally, instead of staying in that state, I want to get out of it. And so I am a huge proponent in like talking to somebody, and family is great, and there's some people that works for me. I just need like Olga's not a stranger anymore, but even just a stranger to like say, I don't know, I'm screwed up. This is what's going on. And I just feel like shit. And I don't even want to go to work. I don't want to get up. I slept 15 hours last night and I still feel like crap. I'm just tired all the time and I feel worthless. Fix me, please. Obviously, it doesn't happen quite that easy, but if we're talking about the first time, I mean, probably would be about 2 years after I started the company back in '99. It'd be about 3 years. We had grown pretty crazily, and then I had a disruption with my partner, a disagreement, not a single, but a long-term disagreement. And he got into a funk and wasn't coming, like he just quit coming to he gave up. And I had to find a way through it, and banks and money and all this stuff was, and um, I found that talking to people was a good way, but even if it's just getting on my knees and praying, um, but it's a real thing, and it's something that you got to be mindful of as you're leading up. That's what I think. I mean, Crystal, do you find that like if you're cognizant of the now, I can almost feel when I'm getting close to that
oh,
and
I
start to
definitely know.
you get that feeling.
No,
Yep.
I definitely get that feeling because like I'll get to like the middle of the week or sometimes it's at the beginning of the week where I wake up and it's like I don't want to do what I need to do today. Like that work is it's just at the back of my mind. I want to do everything else but that just because I am burnt out. I am sick of doing the same things for 5 days a week for 365 days a year. Like
You work 365 days a year?
no, I do not.
I was going to say that's more like 320 days, but
Yeah.
Hey,
5 days a
give or
week.
take my
Uh,
Still,
life.
it's a lot of days a year, though.
Time
yeah.
I ain't getting back.
I think
Well, we
that,
all go ahead.
well, I was going to say that I think that what I see in common is that the burnout is resistance to growth. That's the way I like to look at it, because usually right before you're about to have like a major breakthrough, usually go through this bout of depression or burnout or like kind of like a defeated feeling. And then once you accept and acknowledge that, oh, I'm in this place and I can't get up, like it's just part of you that's like, okay, well, now you acknowledge that something is not right. And then you start to, then you hit like a major breakthrough, like, okay, this is what we're going to do next. It's It's about slowing down and listening to yourself and being aware. I think that's a really big one. Is like you said, you can feel it when it's coming, when you're coming up to it. I think a lot of it has to do with your level of awareness, because for a long time, I like to say that I was sleep. Uh, and like in the last few years, like everything is just so different to me. Like I'm a lot more aware of myself. And so the more you know yourself and how you work, like mentally, physically, I think that you can see it coming a lot easier.
Well, the more you, I used to just drown it out, and when I mean drowned it out, I mean with bourbon, you know, and that get me to the next day. We all have, like Tony Robbins says this, but so does a friend of mine, Ed, that you have what type of person you are. We all have six human needs. Variety is one of them, and how high that human need is on in each individual is different. But like variety is a need that I have, and when I find myself not being just all work, no play, no family, and doing the same thing over and over again, not adding any variety to my life. And this could be different for each person, but me
Mhm.
personally, I've got to get some variety going because it can be monotonous going into the office. I mean, to have a successful company, you got to do what are we told to do? Do things in a systematic way.
Mhm.
The same way is what that means every day, all day. That's how you build a successful company. It's also, if you're doing that, very much a lack of variety, right? You're using the same programs, communicating in the same effective manner with a lot of the same, at least, type of people. And so adding some flavor into your life, or at least for me, it was about getting away from drowning out my those that feeling of the state I was entering. And like you said, being aware that I was being more aware now, and kudos to you for figuring that out at your age. I mean, I'm 48. I feel like I just figured it out a couple years ago.
She's not
Like,
much younger than you, bro.
I'm
don't,
winning in
hey,
the
I
come
race.
think
on,
we're
we.
always I think we're always figuring it out. There's Once you're aware of one thing, it'll always continue on higher and higher.
I tell
Yeah,
you,
once you kind of find it, then and you recognize it. One thing I had to do is just I quit drinking, and then it's funny when you take away those numbing factors when you use it the way I did, um, that you're 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 not aware. You're numb all the time. You're almost like a zombie. Like
Zombie, yeah.
you're there,
autopilot.
but you're not really there. What was you gonna say, Flo?
Autopilot.
Yes.
Like you're
Uh,
living your life behind glossed eyes. You see everything, you notice stuff, but you don't feel for it. You don't act upon
just
it.
don't care.
You just don't exist at that time.
Yeah,
You're
just
out
don't
of
care. That's
body.
it.
It's legit out of body.
Speaking of out of
Yeah.
body, what's one way you could be out of body and still gather information? Sleep.
Oh, that was a
Sleep.
clever way to just slide right into our sponsor for the day, which is Floor Cloud. Floor Cloud will let you, understand and know the metrics of your job site without actually being on site, right? The time savings, and I'm not going off the script today. I'm just going to tell you the time savings and the trips and the communication and the holding the accountability you can add to a job site with Floor Cloud is truly revolutionary. We believe in not only sites, site preparation and site observation, but in the old days, we had to go out to the job site, do all this manual things. Today, you can go do it one time, set it and forget it, and just log in on your phone or your desktop. look at your site conditions, and save yourself or your crews several times. And look, at the end of the day, you're honoring your crews by signing on with Floor Cloud. How many times in the past, guys, have we sent crews out to a job site only to find out that the AC is not on, or the windows aren't in, or whatever, that the site conditions aren't appropriate for the product we're
Oh,
installing?
do you mean yesterday? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, I mean, and today with Floor Cloud, you can put it even reads your Wagner meters if you have the I forget, transponder from the Wagner RH test straight to your Floor Cloud device. That'll beam it cellular signal, and you don't need Wi-Fi or anything for this to work. It's not complicated, super easy setup. So get your, if you want to, help the show out, I'm gonna just toss their little QR up there. If you want to help the show out and help out your jobs and your progress on your projects and your crews, go get in touch with the Floor
Yeah.
Cloud people.
It's not even helping the show out, it's helping yourself out.
Amen. But it is like an out of body experience when you're talking about being numb for sometimes years. And I know that doing the same thing and doing it over and over again is one thing that can cause that. But the other deal is, do you see value in what you're providing? Another thing that I've exercise I was taught was, like, think about the people that you're helping when you're doing the thing that you're doing. And in flooring, we are improving people's lives, whether they're it's their home or their business. It adds pride to their facilities. It adds pride to their home. They get to feel like, uh, you know, I mean, we've all been through walkthroughs where people are like, man, you can feel it. I just love this. Well, if you focus on when I'm real careful not to give advice because I'm no mental health expert, but for myself, uh, I found when I focused on the value that I'm providing to others, that it helped me get through that monotonous and actually find value in the system again, in the day in, day out routine, is when I was thinking about someone else. I found when I'm just focusing on poor me, that's when I start sliding down in there. And Olga's done a good job of like pointing some of that stuff out for me. I may only talk to her once or twice a year, but it's always a pleasure. And those are the kind of um, you know relationships that if you have within your family or within a good friend, or heck, hire a coach. I don't. It's money well spent if you need to. Um, I've just learned these things, these little linchpins, little spots in my life where I can be it like that I'm headed back that direction. You know what I mean? And again, it's when I'm being selfish is probably the biggest culprit of
You
it.
just said it right there. That's what I was waiting to hear. So I'm going to butt in. I haven't said anything yet, right? I wanted to listen to everybody. But so I'm just going to go back to the burnout. Like, I also had a drinking problem when I was younger, in my younger days, I would say. But the burnout for me didn't always come from work, right? It just came from situations in my life, and then me, instead of dealing with it head on, just me being selfish. I wanted the best outcome for myself in a lot of different ways, and so I tried to find out what that was. Um, so I would say that I tried to find outlets, like softball was one for a very long time. I mean, I played ball for a lot. I played baseball since it started when I was 11. I didn't stop playing ball until last year at 40 something. Never took a year off. But the burnout would come from people, right? I would get burnt out from people. It was never from work, right? The physical aspect was always. It used to be easy for me. Now it's very difficult. But there's other reasons. But so the physical aspect used to be easy and fun, and I used to love being the fat guy who was strong, showing everybody that. But it was the mental portion, having to learn how to deal with people on a day to day basis when it wasn't always easy. It wasn't easy being the 19-year-old bossing the 30-something-year-olds around because I was already better at their job than they were. They were the ones that taught me, and then I got better. Or the new guys that were. It was never easy doing any of that, and I think that that's where my burnout come from. Is that I always wanted to do the best I could or be the best I could and prove that I was better at this today than I was yesterday. It didn't matter what it was. And I think that's where the burnout come from for me is I put myself in a position to don't mess up. You talk so much crap about everybody else that you can't mess up, man. Right. And I still do that, but I
It's
deal
a
with a lot of stuff. I deal with a lot of stuff through humor. I like to
Mhm.
crack jokes, make fun of everything. Um, I try
That
my best
pressure
to
we
think,
put on ourselves can
yeah,
be crushing.
yep, it is. And you can only control your controllables. And it took me a long time to realize that, even though it's still frustrating now, today, knowing that there's things that are controllable to other individuals around you that you surround yourself with, they just decide and choose not to control. Do I get mad, upset? Yeah, but I try to let things go very quickly so it doesn't eat at me. Um, I used to smoke pot. I used to drink all the time. I used to tell people that I smoke pot. I used to live to smoke and smoke to live. But I just through different changes and different views in my life, different parts of my life, I had a different view. I'm one of those people that, and I think Daniel, my family here can attest to it. If I say I'm not doing something anymore, I quit. I quit smoking and never went back. I mean, I did fill it with other voids, but I also quit doing that too. And I quit smoking, started vaping. Then my son was 3 years old, picked up an ink pen top and acted like he was vaping. Boom, done. Like that day, done. Um,
Well,
it,
coping, have you guys talked about like what are the positive coping mechanisms? Because you got, listening to you, Jose, there's a couple of things. So you got physical and mental burnout. I never really had a problem with physical burnout.
mhm,
It was always mental. And it was
yep.
always similar in some of the same vein as what you were just saying, which is like I put a lot of pressure on myself. I always want to be the best at what I'm doing, and so I've got this like I can't let these people down kind of syndrome. And the truth is that we add a lot of that pressure to ourselves. So how do you cope with it? What's your guys' coping
Uh,
mechanism? Not necessarily in a negative way, but
yeah.
like, we all have to deal with this. So
We do, and I've come to realize that I love to learn. Right. So my coping for me is I love to learn. Doesn't matter what it is. I go down a lot of rabbit holes. So that way when someone that I care about, a friend, family, whatever, I love to learn things so that way I can help them to any capacity. And that's my coping mechanism. Is I try to offer some kind of insight no matter what the subject is, no matter what the problem is. And if I can't, then I say, "Hey, I can't, but we can learn together." And
so when you're like at that level, you find that like engaging other people and helping them is um beneficial. And do these people just come into your life at this opportune time? Is there and that because or do you just reach out to somebody, you're feeling like, I don't want to do this anymore, and then do you reach out to someone, or is it just kind of opportunistically come into your life?
I think I think everything aligns for a reason, right? Um, I don't know, maybe I put out that vibe sometimes. Maybe someone's putting out a vibe and I kind of extend a little bit of assistance by making a comment or saying something, but I leave it at that. I don't overstep my boundaries. I don't impede on anybody's life. I don't, I'm not the gossip type. If you didn't hear it from me, then if I didn't hear it from someone's mouth or the source or whoever's the subject, I could care less what people are saying about someone else. But um, I do my best to try to make myself available to everyone, right?
So
Does that?
it's more like when you're going through it than people like in your life or somewhere um, maybe close to you um, maybe comes around needing some help. Is that like when I think about one of the best ways to like deal with stuff is doing it yourself. You know, we learn a lot of
Hmm.
us, especially as technician kind of people, learn by doing. And
Yeah.
you are doing the thing that would help you the most by giving to someone else. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
I'll put it like this. I had a very close friend have some issues internally that they were dealing with, right? So I did a lot of research. Come to find out, I was also dealing with a lot of those issues. So I did more research. And then it was just like I was so worried that the our medical industry is crap, the way and the systematic order they have you do things. So I went and found a lot of different options and information about specific prescriptions and what it could do, what it couldn't do, and how the imbalance could happen by having too much of one, not of the other. And then I found out a lot about myself through that process. And we're talking like 6 months of just reading and downloading articles and reading books or listening to audiobooks. Um, I went that route and learned for myself because I was trying to find some answers for this person. Did it help? I don't know. But all I did 6 months of reading and listening
Well,
and
did it help
learning,
you? I mean,
it
if it
helped.
helped
Yeah,
you,
well, it
then
helped
it
me
helped.
100%. Um, all of that information that I kind of crammed in there all went to like a half hour conversation here, a 10-minute conversation there, right? I never try to pressure anybody or anything like that, or even myself, because I'm not always the best person to talk to. Sometimes I'm in those moods like, yeah, I don't care right now. Just let me be.
Yeah, you can always get tacos and watch some TikTok, some flooring TikTok videos.
Yeah, 100%.
What about
Um,
you, you and Daniel and Flo? What do you guys?
I think you weren't in here for the beginning of what baby sister said when she was getting burned out, but it was kind of like being pushed into the limelight and not really feeling like she was to the capacity of what everyone thought she was, right? And that kind of feeling burned out because of that. And I think everything comes full circle because people are going to push you to where they feel that they think that you should be, and you kind of need that push. And
Where
then
they see value,
where
where they
where
yeah,
see
where they see
value in
that you
you.
need to be. And then when you start feeling that burnout is when you kind of said people will start kind of reaching out to you like, hey, and do you, I have some questions that I think that you could answer, or I need some help with this. And that's when you kind of look at it like, hey, maybe I do have that value. And that's where you kind of start putting out where, yeah, I do have this information that you need. Maybe I can help you out. And then you also have to start reaching out to other people too, because it's it's not always, I always have the answer. You have to start reaching out to people too, and being humble. Like, no, I don't always have the answer. So reaching out to your network, and because you never know where people are at too. People can be feeling that same way. So it's like, hey, I'm need some help with this. Do you mind helping me out? They could be feeling that same way that you are, and they need someone reaching out at the same time. So ironically, reaching out to someone for help and asking them for their expertise, even when they are feeling burned out, can actually help them feel less burned out, I think.
ding, 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 ding.
Yeah, the Crystal, is that when you first kind of, as your brother said, going in, kind of being pushed into the limelight? Did you feel like, because other people seen value in you and value in what you had to offer, and did you feel like you weren't worthy?
Absolutely, 100%. Uh, Earlier, I referred to it as imposter syndrome. So just not feeling like I am who people say that I am, or not feeling my like just not knowing who I was. For me, like it was definitely an identity shift for me when I went through my most recent bout of burnout. Just yeah, I lost my train of thought. That happens to me sometimes.
Well, going through your most recent bout of burnout,
What was the question
I,
again?
I personally know that um, for me, it's a lot of the same exact thing you just said, imposter syndrome. When I've, you know, been asked to do something or pushed out into this role, or I've put myself in the role and I'm like, what in the hell were you thinking? You're just a flooring installer guy. But a lot of the time that, and this is the point I wanted to make, when we were talking about earlier where the you were saying right when that pain is really bad, it's like where the breakthroughs on the other side, and that's a common like theme. That is like I would say that is true. You're very close. You're right around the corner from a breakthrough if you can just endure a little bit longer. And sometimes, at least in my case, it was persevering through times when I wanted to quit. Um, I mean, everybody knows I'm the founder of Go Carrera, and when I started that in 2018, really, and there's been so many times throughout this journey that I've like, who are you? What are you at? You're an actor, you're an actor. Well, the truth is that because the breakthroughs on the other side of burnout, it's really because you're going through all this to condition yourself to become the person that you have to be to accept that new uh, that breakthrough. You can't just it's like it's why so many lottery winners, right? They can't manage $100 and then they win 100 million and they're broke in 3 years you know it's something like 80 some percent of all lottery winners end up absolutely broke, and the stats in the NBA and NFL are very similar. They never became who they needed to become to have that. Their identity didn't match their reality, and you talked about an identity crisis earlier. And these things are deep subjects. Sometimes we get deep on the huddle because this is stuff we're all really dealing with in real life, and I know our audience is too. So
Yeah, I mean, there's plenty of times where we're at a school event or something, and they come up to me and they're like, "Man, you guys are killing it," and all this, and then and deep down inside, you're just like, "Man, I am struggling so much right
Man, I am
now."
killing myself. That's how you feel like, oh,
Yep.
yeah, I'm killing myself.
I can
Nobody.
even sorry, I can even relate to that today. Like talking to the kids, and they came up to me
You did
asking
great,
me
nephew.
questions. They were like, "Oh, so why do you do what you do?"
He said,
I said, because this was my last option. That's what I told the kids. And they were like, "Do you love what you do?" I said, "I've learned to love parts of it." But like, if I'm speaking honestly, like my biggest passion is music and writing, and I want to be a professional singing actor one day. Like that's the goal. And I'm using the flooring industry as a stepping stone, and I want to perfect my craft in it because it is the only thing that is pushing me forward in life. That's allowing me to create something.
well,
That's allowing
in
me.
order to be a great singer, you have to experience a lot of depression and despair. So you're welcome for giving you all
Thanks.
the material. Yeah, you're welcome.
No, and I
it's
think
good.
about what Paul was saying, like everything at a point in your life just aligns and you start seeing all the stuff that you went through and all the times that you thought you weren't going to make it, the times that you thought you were at the bottom of your road, but you have to reach rock bottom to be able to rise up to the top where you want to be
Rock
because
bottom changes too, guys, right? Rock bottom changes all the time. Every time you reach
yeah.
a new level, your bottom rises too.
Hmm.
But you can always regress further than that bottom. And Paul, you had mentioned, you said something like, every time you feel you're at that point of burnout, you're just right around the corner, right around the
Hmm.
corner. Man.
I mean, you
You,
you see that picture on Facebook, right, where they're like mining for diamonds, and there's two
mm,
people, one above the other,
Hmm.
and then one is keeps on
Yeah.
going. The other guy just turns around and he's right there. And then sometimes you got to realize that and that's where you got to have that mindset, and it's like you do, and
Well,
that's
what
where
is the mindset? I'm going to interrupt you. The mindset. What is the mindset?
that the mindset is like because there is times where you're like, what the hell am I doing, man? Like, why am I doing this? And then that's where these people come in, and it's like you look at yourself at the imposter syndrome, and it's like, and then you talk to these people, and it's like, you know what? There is people that are telling me that I'm doing a great job. Maybe I am doing a great job.
I
And then
also
you,
think it's like recognizing that struggle is a blessing.
Mm-hmm.
it's
Like
the journey.
Daniel, you're like one of the most positive guys I know, and recognizing that struggle, that despair that you're in, is that you should be grateful. You should know that you're right around the corner, and if you keep pushing, you're going to have a breakthrough. And it may be a little one, or it could be huge. I've had them multiple different ways, and
Hmm.
Mm.
Ed Milet told me one time we were having a discussion. He says you just need what you should strive for in life is more important problems. That's what success gives you. Just bigger, more important problems. We're none of us ever going to success our way out of problems. It's just
Yeah.
you get bigger, more important ones if your rock bottom's raising with you.
I like to call them lessons. We're all here to learn lessons, and if we don't learn the lesson, you continuously repeat the lesson until you finally learn what you're supposed to learn from that experience. Which is why I feel like a lot of people stay in lack mindsets or poverty mindsets because I also refer to it as like a victimization. People like to victimize themselves. And it's not, and I'm not saying like it's not anyone's fault. This is the way we've been programmed, like how we have grown up that way. And so, yeah, it's all of these lessons, all of the problems or struggles that we grow through are for a purpose. And we may not know it right away, but later on down the road, something that Jose just randomly picked up one day, that's him following his intuition. And he's going to use that knowledge maybe 5 to 10 years down the road. But there was a reason we learn what we learn and we do what we do so that later on down the road, it's going to serve a purpose eventually in our life. As long as we use it that way, we see things as purposeful.
Yeah, and you're
Yeah.
aware of it, right?
My
Yeah.
poor kids at
Good
home.
point.
I totally overload them with information. Ever since they could talk, I've never answered them in baby babble or anything like that. If they've asked me a question, I've always explained everything to a T, whether it put me in a bad spot or not. And man, like giving kids the scientific explanation for everything might not be the way to go, but I didn't know, and yet like I want them to know everything that I know at a way younger age than I did, so that way it puts them in a better position. And
but at the same time, sometimes they they disagree with you, and then it's like, all right, go learn.
yeah, that's okay. That's okay. And I talked to
So,
Lencho today about that too. Like, hey,
so
could tell them whatever they want.
a good a good lesson in this is my niece, right? She's lived with me for 5 years, and um, this kind of goes back to what you were saying. It's like you do things not for not so people tell you that you're such a good person and all that, right? Because people do. They come up to me and they're like, "Oh, you're such a great person for bringing her in and stuff." It's not why I did it, right? It's not why she lives with me. It's because I had the resources, come over, give you a better school district and all that. But this year she didn't want to do softball, and now she's regretting it. And she's like, she talked to Jose about it, and she's like, "Why didn't he just make me do it?" And it's like life lesson, man. Like you got to learn things, and I felt that it was time. I'm not going to make you do it because I knew you were going to regret it. And I think that she's at the age right now to where that was going to be a great life lesson for her.
Yeah, and as adults, we kind of go through the same thing, even, where that's a great lesson for. How old is she?
17.
17.
Okay, yeah, I mean, that's that, and even a few years younger, it's a great lesson, great time for that lesson because when you're an adult, you just don't have as many safety nets under you, right? You don't have parents or uncles or aunts as much around you as a safety net when you make a bad decision. So you kind of got to just learn to live with your decisions. And it teaches you to kind of be more thoughtful about the decisions you make
Yeah.
and think about how it's going to affect you in the future or affect other people in the future. And I was just to get this right with the six human needs that I mentioned earlier. And if you think about this, some of them are counteractive. And in fact, I think we should do a podcast on like contradictions. Like, but human need number one is certainty. Number two, uncertainty and variety. Number three, and these are not in order, just in, uh, they're different for each person, but significance, being significant, that's high up on mine. I want to do something that matters. Connection and love, growth and contribution. So that's like the six human needs that, you know, people like Tony Robbins and Ed Milet talk about. If you think about all those, when you're what you were talking about earlier, Jose, when you're helping people, or
Mm.
even you, Daniel, when you guys were talking about helping other people, that's contribution. And if that's high up on your list, and I know it is on yours because you guys, not to call you out, but you guys train other people, you help other people when they need help on projects, like you want to help other people, that contribution to other people's lives. I feel like that is the one of all of the needs, being so selfless, that can get you out of a lot of your funk. At least for me, I got to quit talking like I know. I know
And
for
that
me.
goes that goes along with like success and change in your life too, because if you're surrounding yourself with the top I mean the top 5 people that you surround yourself with is ultimately how your life's going to turn out. And if you spend your entire life just helping people and giving, sowing, never reaping, never gaining, never expecting to gain, then at the end of the day you're going to get everything you ever wanted.
Yeah, they say that
Hopefully.
that the five people that you're most around, like you just said,
Mhm.
is your network equals your net worth.
That's
So,
facts.
like the people that you hang out with are who you're going to end up acting the most alike, or, um, and that's why if you've ever had a business coach or a mentor, that's a good mentor, they'll tell you like you got to be around people that have done what you want to do or are living the kind of life that you want to live. And that doesn't always mean money. I'm not even just talking about money. I'm talking about like the type of life that they live. I got a buddy of mine. He makes good money, but he's not like a wealthy guy. One of the happiest goddamn fellas I've ever met, though. Like he travels more than anyone I know. Him and his wife go all over the dang world. He's got a good job that allows him for that free time to do it, and that's what he loves to do. He's one of the happiest guys I know, and I don't know where I was going with that, so I'm with you, Crystal, on loss of track of the thought. But
I,
um,
ha- I have a
anyway,
thought
he
for you.
just he just had a crystal.
I had a crystal moment.
I'm sorry.
We
Crystal
all have
clear.
crystal moments.
Um,
I
so right
tried.
along with that is what the type of people you surround yourself with. I think that it's important to also know your values. It's where your values are going to knowing your values are going to help you live more intentional and make decisions based on what you believe and how you perceive yourself, I guess, in a way. And so the people you surround yourself with should absolutely have the values that you aspire to have. And that's continuously changing and growing as you learn and evolve as well. Um, I'm about to have another crystal moment though, because I did
Well,
have something
I'm
else.
gonna build on that. The one of the contradictions that always happen in my head is just what you said. Being around the people, one group of thought or one train of thought will say, be around like-minded people. That's the best way to live a happy life. But that's also the best way to like not grow,
Mhm.
not have anybody pushing you or being drug in a uh, by example of other people. So it's kind of a contradiction in my head. A lot of this self-help stuff will add this dichotomy to your brain.
Hmm.
It's all about how you feel, though, is what I've learned. And
Mhm.
so sometimes it is about being around like-minded people, but most of the time I want to be around people who are going to push me. And that can be difficult if you're, um, if you're a workaholic like myself. You don't get around a lot of people other than your employees, and then you get home to your family. Like, um,
Yep.
it's just and installer same way. You work your butt off. You're doing good. You're around the same guys or the same people every day. So it's even variety in the people that you hang out with, I think, and having a little bit of a deeper bench than just your same. My biggest ruts is when I've had the same buddies doing the same thing, and we leave work, go meet for a drink, do this thing, and that that rut is hard to get out of because you don't have anyone around you to pull you out. They want to, in fact, keep you there with them.
Well, that's why I say that your values change because sometimes when we stick around people for longer than we need to, it's because our values are no longer aligned and we are looking for growth and we are looking for something different. So I think it's important to also come back to what you're valuing, every so often to make sure that you're still in alignment with the people that you surround yourself with. Because,
Have you
yeah,
had to? I'm sorry. I was just going to ask. I'm curious. Have you had to cut people out of your life that didn't no longer fit into your future?
I think that they fall off automatically just because I feel like your vibe, the frequency that you put out naturally draws that same frequency in or rejects that frequency that doesn't match like the
You
vibe,
know,
the energy.
we keep talking
Hmm.
about values, right? And I wrote down a couple things, and that's what I do when I look down here, guys. I write down some things as
Yeah, we know.
I think when we're talking about value, I just want like for me, my perspective of the value is going to be you know, what kind of value do you bring to a group, to your people, to your family? You got emotional, informational, motivational, inspirational. Like these are values that go
Connotation.
beyond like what financials could bring, right? And
I
also
think he just
know,
wrote some lyrics for you, Flo.
Rock and
but
roll here.
to add on when you asked how do you have you had to cut people off? She's right. Like you got to also remember like the value that you see within somebody else has placed a value on you, whether it's friends or family, right? They've bestowed that value on you. Once you are no longer in that category that where you are valuable to some aspect of them, everybody cuts themselves off at some point, right? Where everyone's after something regardless of how nice they are, who they are. Everybody
Well, we all
I
have
feed off the
needs.
energy. Yeah, we all have needs. I feed off your energy, you feed off mine. And if we're aligned, and whether it's energy or value that we see in one another, when we're aligned. But if it becomes a portion where some old friends we're just no longer aligned, then it's no longer aligned. It doesn't mean that I don't value our friendship and our history or anything like that. All it means is that hey, you know what? We are on two different paths, but every now and then, we're going to cross paths, and I would love to give you a hug, shake hands, and continue that conversation where we left off because now that is our value, and I think that that goes the same for a lot of different aspects of life. Is got to take the good with all the bad, right? And sometimes the good becomes very, very little, and you have to understand and recognize when to walk away, so that way you can avoid that long stretch of bad.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, you described value in how people look at you, because I've always looked at, as what Crystal was saying is the value I'm providing to a marketplace. And is there any value that I provide? And if so, then I'll be rewarded in some manner. Um, Thinking of it the way you just posed it makes you be maybe have to be a little bit more self-aware and a little less selfish too, is how what is the value that other people see in you that you may not see in yourself. And again, I think that helping other people, um, I know a lot of authors, I'll just say this to round that thought out, that write the book because of what they're going through. And the book is, even if it's a self-help book, it's it's like that's their therapy, is writing that book. There's part of them
Mhm.
that is helping other people, and they're not quite there themselves. So if you read a book, 90% of the time that person's not in some, perfect place and giving this authoritative direction. A lot of times it's what they've just went through, or they're currently going through, and they're documenting. um, I thought that was interesting. I've talked to some authors about that, and then I wrote, not really a book, I just put a journal together, like best practices of how I found success in different areas of my routines. And um, going through that was as therapeutic as, like, I'm not perfect in any manner of even executing on what I put in that book and encourage other people to do. There's therapy in helping other people, I guess, is, and we said that earlier, but at the end of the day, you can help yourself a lot just by extending a hand to somebody else.
Yeah, and you were talking about authors, and I always talk about Simon Sinek because he's one of my
Hmm.
favorites, and that's what he says. There's all these self-help books there, but there's no section on help others, and that's where kind of where we got into this topic, right? And I think that's one of the biggest takeaways from this episode is, not only helping yourself, but one of the biggest things that you can do is help someone else, and that's one of the biggest ways that you can help yourself, help someone
Yeah,
else.
kind of
That's why
rounds out
McDonald's.
that whole sow and reap and sowing thing
Right.
that Flo was talking
And
about earlier.
yeah, and that one of the Facebook groups that I brought up before was Mind and Body for the flooring trade, and Chad Lewis, put on there, and the only thing that he put on there is perspective, and it's a whiteboard, and it says that someone else is dreaming of the job you hate, the home you complain about,
Oh yeah.
the smile you forget to wear, and the health you take for granted. Don't let difficult times make you forget your blessings.
Hmm.
Yep.
Amen. And the whole church said amen.
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 That's for real, man. That's a great way to put it. Someone else is dreaming of the life you have is basically the shortest version of that. Like
It
they're
is.
dreaming of having, there's people out there dreaming to have kids that you're like, God dang it, leave me alone. I just want a break.
Damn
You know
kids.
what? I actually have a perfect example for that. So when my kids were a little bit younger, my oldest son Emilio was always making comments about how Daniel would put his son in travel sports and how he couldn't do that. And I actually admired that Daniel did things like that. And so I actually made
We
it
all
one of
did.
my goals. It made it one of my goals to get to a place where I could do that for my kids. And it's just a perfect example of seeing someone where you want to be. And instead of envying them or being upset that they're somewhere better, strive to become that. Like, that's literally what it's about.
Yeah, and being grateful for where you're at, I think, is the last part of that. Like,
Yeah.
you can want more and still be grateful for where you're at.
Hmm.
And read that again, Daniel. I think everybody liked that.
All right. It says, someone else is dreaming of the job you hate, the home you complain about, the smile you forget to wear, and the health you take for granted. Don't let difficult times make you forget your blessings.
Man, that's so good.
It's better to have loved and lost than never to have loved at all, right? That's, I mean, this goes to the count your blessings thing, right? You can word that and compare it to a whole bunch of different things, but be grateful for what
Well,
you do have instead of envious for what you don't.
in researching the writing of the journal I'm hopefully publishing this month, um, gratitude is in every single, like, it's like um, the core of the earth or the universe. It's like
Yeah, the
the
gratitude
thing
is the
that
highest
everything is.
frequency.
Yeah, it's like everything is built around that. You can't you can't get somewhere if you're not grateful for where you're at. So it also helps pull you out of those depths when we're talking about burnout, and we're talking about, like, man, why am I even doing this? And
Right.
this isn't just in flooring. I mean, I know plenty of people in plenty of professions, trades, etc., that struggle with the same thing. Like, we all get there, but just remember someone else is dreaming of the house you live in, the life you have, the health you take for granted. That is a powerful thought if
Right.
you
And
will let it sink in. And the next time you're having a hard time, just remember that. You know, your parents used to tell you, there's kids, well, my parents would say, there's kids in Africa kill for that food. And I can't stand pea. I still can't stand peas. But, I'd have to choke them down because dad was like, there's people that kill for that food. It
You're
never really
weird.
resonated. Well, why? Peas? They're the devil's never mind.
No, because my mom,
There
my
was one
mom used
time
to.
I told my mom to tell them to come get the food then, and I got in
You
trouble.
know,
I bet you did.
that comment that little thing that Daniel read, it reminded me, it just gave me a flashback of a memory I had about hanging out, and you hang out with some people, and I remember this the gentleman walked. I mean, we were young, right? Teenagers, young 20s, and there was a guy in a wheelchair, and one of the gentlemen in the group that I was with walked by him and was like, "Dude, I wish I had a wheelchair." And without hesitation, the dude in the wheelchair said, "I wish I could walk." And then it just like stopped, and I just like is the dude that asked said, "Hey, I would like he I know that he didn't mean it like that. Like he just wish he could roll around real quick, right? But he didn't think about like the full picture. But the way that dude came back with, "I wish I could walk," just
Well, I
like,
think
mm,
that seems like the correct
who
response,
said that?
but
it
at the
it
same time,
does.
it would be uh,
Yep, that's my mom.
it would be funny the opposite direction. Hey
Yeah,
man, I wish I could walk. He goes, I wish I had a wheelchair.
yeah, yeah,
And then, I
But
mean, other people aside, right? There's also that saying. It says 5 years. What I pulled it up right here. It says just remember 5 years ago you dreamed about where you are now.
Hmm, that's not true. Not for me.
well,
5 years
but
ago.
the other thing is a lot of our dreams, and we're all guilty of this, but a lot of our dreams, they are just that, dreams, and we've never turned
yeah,
them into goals. And the one thing that we can't argue is you are sitting where you're at right now in life with your circumstances, benefits, and everything as a direct result of all the decisions you've made. It's just a culmination of all the decisions you've made. And when you look at it like that, you'll find these spots in your life where, like, you wanted to blame someone else. But if you dig down, you'll find where you could have changed it. It's one of the things that's probably the most exhausting to my employees and my kids is I'm like, well, what could you have done different? Well, I didn't estimate the job, or I didn't do
Right.
this, or what. No, 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 no. Where could you have made the situation better? What could you have done? What's in your control that you could
And
have
then
done to
and then
improve the situation?
well, not even that. It's on the flip side. Like, if you would have changed it, where would you be now? Like, if you would have changed something before, you wouldn't have your son right now.
That's
You
legit.
wouldn't have your girl right now.
That's
If
legit.
I would have
Mhm.
changed something before, if I would have followed on the career path that I wanted to, I wouldn't be where I'm at now. We wouldn't be talking now. So, everything happens Okay,
Yeah,
and
and I
you're where
think
you're at now because of the choices that you made.
yeah, I think it's dangerous to start thinking like if I'd have done that, I'd be here. You know what I mean? Like there's so much it goes back to gratitude. I'm sure you're very grateful for your son. Or do you, is
Man,
it a son or a daughter?
His son, yeah.
His son. Okay, so
yeah,
He looks
like
so squishy.
one little difference in your life and he may not exist. Same
yeah,
with
it's
mine. I've got
crazy
two
because
Yeah, bro.
right before I met his mother, I was due to deploy to Kuwait for a year and a half, and they didn't send me because of my back.
Because it was
dang.
wet.
Yup.
Wetback.
My bad. My bad.
No, I was gonna say something. It was when Paul was talking about just like the decisions you make in your life and how that ultimately like affects the way that your life turns out. But at the same time, it's not the decisions that you make; it's the actions you choose to partake in. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Well, yeah,
cause
the actions are a decision. That's the point, is that if if you don't decide to act on something, then it's just a dream. You know, if you decide to act, you've then started to turn it into a goal.
hmm,
That's funny you say that because I just started making like a flow chart of how to make goals
Flowchart.
and at a flow chart, yeah. And it's something that I'm working on to present to the guys at work because if you're just going through life, going through the motions without any goals, like you come to a place where it's like shit, I could I need to do something. I need to change something to better my circumstances, or else this is where I'm going to be forever. And that's when the burnout starts and the resentment and all of those things.
And then, I mean, on the flip side of that, there are going to be guys that don't want to change and they're going to push back. And
See, but they're also here to show us something. They're here to show us what it's like if you don't choose to change.
Well, that's
Yeah,
where
everything
the best
that's
lessons come from
awesome.
failure, right? That's where that comes from. If you watch people fail or you fail yourself, those are some of the best lessons. And I want to add to that whole dream thing. We all dream of something when we're a kid, right? And we let go of those things because reality kicks us in the ass, and we have to accept a direction. But it doesn't mean that the dream has to stop. A dream, a dream without action, it will eventually become your nightmare. So don't just let it all go. Let it play out. Do something towards that, towards
let
that
it
that goal,
flow.
that dream.
Let it flow.
Let it flow.
There's a reason that you have that vision at such a young age.
Yeah,
You
and
are
those dreams turn into nightmares, as you said, is because you're not doing what you got this inner feeling that you're
Yeah.
supposed to be doing. A lot of you know, a lot of my most guilty moments are when I'm not doing the thing that the stuff I know I'm supposed to be doing. You know, if I don't journal for 2 weeks in a row, and I do often fall into that, um, I, I get as much guilt as I do like uneasiness because I haven't done it. And it doesn't matter if you do it in the morning or in the evening, whatever. Just I, the truth is if you look at all, why do we know what Thomas Jefferson or Albert Einstein said? Not just because they said it and it got recorded, because they weren't recorded every moment. It's because they wrote everything down. They left a legacy. And one thing that and I'm an advocate for journaling for people is because it's you're telling yourself you're worth leaving this past you existing. We're all going to die someday. And my grandkids or my great grandkids might read some of this stuff and say, oh, Grandpa was kind of stupid or was really smart, whichever one. But you're telling yourself that you're worthy of your thoughts and your you being down on paper, being left for the future. Sorry if that
Man,
got too deep, but
no,
it's kind of the psychological idea behind journaling.
Mhm. And it's
yeah.
something that you can look back on to see how much you've grown in the last year.
Or it has
Yeah, there's
value, right?
practical application to it for sure.
Hmm.
Got to say your goals out loud. When you do that, they tend to come true. Don't just put them on paper,
Ma-
but speak them in
manifesting.
reality.
I
Yeah,
love
but be
that.
careful what you say because when you don't do it, that's when you get attacked.
Amen. This is true. Uh,
Hmm.
that saying it out loud, and I don't want to get all
I
oozly
love woo
Oh,
woo stuff.
spiritual,
this is
but
where
woo
I thought
woo
this whole
stuff.
conversation was going to go with baby sister. To be honest with you,
The frequency you talk about, these are true things, and that's why God, you're encouraged to speak it out loud, is because what do you hear when I speak? You're just hearing a frequency coming out of my mouth, waves,
You hear
sound
it three
waves.
You
times when you
perceive it
speak it out loud.
in your own way. Everyone is perceiving it differently.
You
Yeah, and
hear
when you speak it aloud, there is something to be said for that. So I I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah, because that's kind of the whole thing with
Or
the imposter syndrome. You're saying one thing, but your actions are not aligning with that, and that's why you start to attack yourself in a sense because you're not being authentic. You're not being true to who you say you are. So once your values start to align with the things that you're actually saying, you're able to live more in the
no.
flow of life, more
in
in
the flow of life.
connect. You're more connected to the natural frequency of Earth.
Yeah, and Flo looks like he just had an epiphany.
It's
Oh, we do that
gone.
all the time.
It's gone.
I think he just realized he forgot to put his clothes in the dryer.
No, it's my
Oh my
fault.
goodness.
I'm sorry.
Beetlejuice,
Uh,
Beetlejuice, Beetlejuice. Well, guys, we're about 4:15 here. I came in late, so I don't get to say that I know all of what was said before I came on, but I gotta say that I love this stuff because it's been a journey for me in my entire life. I, you know, didn't grow up the best and blah blah blah, and I always dreamed of a better life, and I am living what I dreamed, and now that should remind me in a lot of ways when I'm starting to get down on myself when I see a 30-year-old, that's knocking out of the park in his business, and I'm over here like shoving the cart up the hill still with Go Carrera, and that
Yeah, but
I
one thing you
dreamed
don't
of this
realize,
life at one point. That's a crazy thought.
and that 30-year-old who's kicking ass, right? You don't understand how many Paul Stewarts he had talking to him through his life at a younger age, right? We don't
yup.
know his journey or their journey, his, hers, whatever. We don't know that either, and that's where I never try to be envious of anybody. I've always tried not to be, right? But you're human. Everybody's human. It happens.
It comes
Um,
in naturally, and then if you can be aware and then correct
Integrate
yourself,
it.
yeah,
Integrate it.
you can kind of like, okay, what is he doing and maybe take the envy out and turn it into action.
mhm. And
But often that's the first kind of like thing when you're in, and it's usually when, for me anyway, when I'm in a kind of a not the best state anyway, and then I see that, and how when you that's why they call it the snowball effect. It just gets
yeah,
worse and worse if you let yourself go down the hill. If you're not aware, before you know it, you will be at rock bottom. And I can say one thing I would like to say anyway is that you don't have to hit rock bottom to change. That's one thing
Mm.
I've learned in my life. Like if you just see yourself headed in the wrong direction, life always has all these multiple paths in front of you, and
Jump
you
off that
you
ladder.
you can choose which path you go on, and you can also see far enough in the future to know whether you're on the right path or not, the path that's going to lead you to where you want to be. So it's sometimes you just got to be willing to pivot a little bit. um, it's
Or have those people around you that are going to push you into the into that path right there.
there you go, there you
yeah.
go.
Yup.
I will say this. Somebody I was dating a girl. This is a very long time ago. I was dating someone, and I went and hung out with a in a crowd that I probably wouldn't be hanging out in, right? And let's just say that there was a lot of wealth around. And we'll just say it that way because I didn't take it for what he said as wealth as in dollars and cents. Is he asked me a question and he said, you know, do you know why poor people are poor? And I said, I don't know, because they don't have any money. He said, yes, to some aspect, but it's because they make poor decisions, right? And I didn't take that as a financial advice. I took that as because wealth is described as many different things. I took that as life advice, right? Like if you want something out of life, no matter what it is, what decisions are you making right now that could eventually lead up to it? Now, are you making the right decisions or are you making poor decisions that are going to derail you? And long ago, I made the choice to, I got to work my ass off. If I stop, then my progression stops, right? And that's the what I had to make a choice. And
But
Well,
then at the
another
same
thing.
time, you have people who are working their ass off and still never getting anywhere. Like,
This is true,
what do you say
but
to that?
right, one
this is
hundred
true,
percent.
but are they like you can really work your tail off, but if you can run as hard as you can down the wrong path,
Mhm.
and that it's really like yes, you're working your having a plan, like you said, I flooring is sustaining my life. I'm good at it while I'm pursuing this other career. If you're not
Right.
taking those steps in that path to be a performer, then you can run in the wrong direction and still feel like you're working your tail off, but it's because you're working your tail off going the wrong direction. So being
Right.
aware that life has always has off ramps. It's like a highway. There's always another off ramp to go a different direction, and you just have to be cognizant. Am I on the right path? And that's where goals come in, and that's where even if you miss them, most Americans don't set goals because of the fear of letting yourself down or letting
Failure, yeah.
others down. Like you you're encouraged to set these big goals, but then you know that the likelihood of hitting them is going to be tough, and maybe not real likely. But so you set these big goals, but it's not about achieving them. It's about the journey of going towards it and
Yep.
learning those lessons on the path. That's it for me. I keep talking like but that's where I've learned and what
Preach
I've
on,
No,
brother. Preach.
no,
experienced.
you said it correct earlier, right? When it's like the authors just write about what they're going through, and that's kind of what we talk about on here too. It's just what we're going through and what we see,
Hmm.
and that's what we're seeing. And like the goal for all of us is to see the industry be better than when we came into it, and that's just our goal, and that's what we're pushing for.
My goal is
Amen.
to see the world be better. Go big
And
or
you
go
know what?
home.
And my whole selfish goal out of everything that I do and everything I try to do is that one day my kids will be proud. That's my selfish goal.
Yeah, that's not really selfish if you're thinking about your children and about them being proud of you. Um, I think that's inherent to parenting. Like you want your children to be proud of you. You want to know you did some things better than your parents. So kudos on all of that.
For sure, I played softball better than my mother.
Oh heck yeah, bro. My mom
The
can't even
way
throw a ball.
the way I like to look at it is how do I perceive myself through the eyes of someone else? Like how are my kids going to perceive me? And I just strive to I guess go back to when I was a kid. What did I want to see from my parent, or how did I want to grow? And I just try to stick to what I feel is right, even if, and
Even
I
if you
I
know
was
it's
going to
wrong.
say that, no, well, I was going to say that
I'm just
earlier, that a lot of things that we've been talking about, I feel like a lot of it has to do with the feelings, like your intuition, your gut feeling. Like if you're on the right path, you can't logically think about that. It's like a feeling you get or an inner knowing, like, yeah, this don't feel good, you're probably on the wrong path. If it does feel good, you're probably in alignment with the path you're supposed to be on. I guess that's the most simple way to put it.
Yeah, intuition's important in all this, but I I would be, how all this ties back
Ooh,
into burnout
speaking of
in your
intuition, you guys,
career
I
or
actually got to go. My
burnout
son's got a
He's
baseball
wrapping
game.
it up right now.
burnout in your career is about, I think, being grateful, aware. This is just my take, and we'll go around and then we can close this thing out. But being grateful and aware, and those are two big changes. And if you guys like the podcast, man, please give us a like and subscribe. This kind of thing I've learned from here, so I can't, you know, you can't participate in this kind of thing. I feel like an author right now from the standpoint of when I'm talking about it and what we're talking about in this conversation. There's been some nuggets and some epiphanies of my own. So if you do like this stuff, we're not always, in the mindset thing, but we do deal with that a lot because it's an important part of having a happy life. So I want to thank you guys for all coming on here and kind of sharing. It's refreshing, and I've learned some stuff here. So thank you everybody, and thanks to the
It's
audience for
always
joining.
refreshing to keep it real, man, and that's
And hit it.
yeah, 100, keep it 100 with you.
Taka taka.
But you
Crystal,
guys should hang around my family, man. Like we are like
Special.
we're fun to be around
special.
sometimes.
We're special.
Crystal, closing statement.
Um, this is like my absolute favorite stuff to talk about because I love learning different perspectives and hearing the things that people have to go through all the time. And I think that the mindset and your self-awareness is is like a key factor in growth. And like you said, gratitude is the center of everything. And you really have to break down everything that you thought you knew in order to be grateful for everything that you do have. And that's when your life will start to change.
Good man. You guys got any
Yeah, go
last
ahead,
words
Flo.
before we close this out?
Um, I mean, it's just this is what I wanted to say. You need to fall in love with the process of becoming great, because if you're fixated on the outcome and just what you want in life, you're not making the decisions and taking the necessary precautions to get yourself there. And if you're okay with being in the dirt, success is dirty. Success is hard. Success is almost
Grind.
unattainable. Almost unattainable.
Got to
Gotta
That's
go
why
to
it's
the
grind.
so hard to
depths.
get there.
Go to the
So just
depths.
focus up, grind it out, and win in the dark.
I love it.
That's his next song.
Grind it out and win in the dark.
No, my next song is Give or Take. That's what it is.
Nice.
Look for it on Apple Music.
No, not yet.
We're getting there.
We're not there yet.
We're getting there.
No,
Daniel,
just be aware, man, and always know that when you're feeling down, someone else is like that too. So definitely reach out and know that if you're feeling like that, someone else is. Reach out, talk to someone, and be that ear and lend that voice.
Mhm.
amen. Jose, final thoughts?
Yeah, just be okay failing. Failure is just the hardest and most efficient way to learn. And then just take that on to the next one. You'll find your path eventually.
Fail forward.
Yeah. What did I
I
say?
like
I
that.
said
All up the stairs.
fail out loud, succeed in silence.
Failure is a
Amen.
necessary tool.
Love it.
So,
All
and
right,
also,
everybody.
I don't want to fail
Oh,
my son, so I got to get out of here.
All right, guys. Well, thanks
All right.
everybody for joining us. Today we went over subjects
Yeah,
like
we
little
did.
this
bit.
do sometimes, but it's been a pleasure. It doesn't feel like an hour and a half to me. Maybe because it wasn't. I showed up late. Well, thanks everybody. We'll see you guys next week, and thanks for everybody joining us, Flo and Crystal, and thanks to Daniel and Jose.
Thanks for joining us, guys.
Great
Appreciate
Thank
you
everyone.
guys. Love the audience. Keep coming back. Give us a like and subscribe, guys. We'll talk to
See
you
you next
later.
time.
Peace out.
Okay, bye.